Scrappers, Tom from the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, May 16th, 2018. We're coming to you live like we like to every Wednesday afternoon at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. So if you're watching this and it's a recorded session, you're not able to get some quick answers, just leave your questions below. We'll make sure to get your answers to you. If you're watching this while we're doing this live, no problem. Just let us answer your questions while you ask them, and hopefully you'll try to stump us, and we'll be able to look up some information and learn a little more about what's going on with the market. The next few weeks we should have our new iScrap app website coming out. We have a lot of new information, updated prices, more news, different prices that people are getting all over the US, so it's going to be a really positive thing, and hopefully you'll be able to really learn more about scrap, tell us what you're looking to learn. That's what's really important to us. You know, we have this Facebook group right now, and people continue to ask questions about different things in the scrap world, and by them asking questions, we're able to learn about what people are really looking to figure out and learn. And we're able to go and dive into things that we wouldn't have thought of otherwise, because sometimes you get stuck in what you're doing and you don't even think. So anyway, ask us questions, and then we'll go from there. Oh, okay. You know where it is? Mm-hmm. Sorry, guys. See, that's what happens when you do live. Things just happen, right? So, in the last week, we have seen not too much news, good or bad. But considering last week we had some bad news, in my mind, we're still kind of on a bit of a downward trend. I'm going to try to make some positive spins on here, but there's so many question marks that we have a really, really difficult time right now trying to figure out what the hell is going on and where we're going to go going into the summertime. Take copper, for example. In the last week, copper's been relatively unchanged. A penny or two up or down. That's it. So you might say, well, that's a really good thing. Copper's kind of stabilized. We're really happy with that. But the problem that we have is it hasn't stabilized, because with the Chinese importing restrictions still going, the CCIC, we are seeing such a drop-off in pricing on insulated copper wire, electric motors, sealed units or compressors, whatever you want to call them, and that has been a really negative thing for us to be able to, ship material out and for scrappers to sell materials to the yards at the right prices. We've seen the insulated copper wire market drop 10 to 15% in the last 2 weeks, and that's not even considering there was much of a change in the copper market. 1 or 2% change in the copper market has made a 10 to 15% change in the insulated copper wire market, and that's been a really, really weird and funny thing to see. So we just kind of have to pay attention to it, and until some of these restrictions are lifted, we're going to see a really large, just a large change in how the markets are going to react. Because let's think about this. I believe that the restrictions went into effect on May 3rd. They were going to last for 30 days. So let's say 30 days later, the first week of June, the restrictions are lifted. Even though many experts are predicting that the restrictions will continue to go on for another 30 days, possibly 60 additional days. And if the restrictions go on for another 30 days, who knows what's going to happen? But let's just assume things go well, and the first week of June they lift the restrictions. What's going to happen? Well, for 30 days leading up to that day, you're going to have a very small amount of material that's been getting shipped overseas, which means scrap yards and larger processors are going to be accruing, holding on to more and more material. Then the floodgates open, people are allowed to ship material again. Now you're going to have a gluttony of material going in, so the prices may remain where they are, because the Chinese are going to have so much coming in that they're not going to be able to process it, even if they are able to catch up over a 30-day period. So the markets might not change pricing-wise. Now let's go on the other side of things. Let's say it lasts for 60 days, 90 days. Now we would be at the point where new buyers would have to enter the market. But the new buyers from across the world, both in the US and overseas, are going to know that the Chinese, which have been one of the largest buyers of insulated copper wire, are not taking the metal in right now. So they're going to know that scrap yards, larger processors, are going to become a little more desperate and are going to be willing to take less money for their material just to be able to move it out of their warehouses. So how's that going to affect the scrapper? Price is going to drop. It's really simple. The prices are going to drop on insulated copper wire, computer wire, Romex wire, THHN. These different grades of wires are all going to have price drops. Telephone wires. That's going to suck, and it's going to be a very, very weird summer. Hopefully it'll get worked out where after 30 days it'll get lifted, things will go in, we'll wait another 30 days, the market will kind of return to normal. We'll be able to figure out what's going to happen from there. Virginia, we have a question?
We have 2 questions,
Great.
But I have a question before the other 2 questions.
Sure.
You mentioned that a lot of the wires will go down in price. Does that maybe encourage people to strip their wire more if they have a large quantity of it and an easy way to do it?
So a lot of the material that's going to go down is not going to be the strippable material, because that's still going to be a relatively easy to move item. I know I mentioned Romex and THHN wire, which have been, wires that have been traditionally exported. But those are items that, as long as they're bare bright, they're able to go to local processors in the U.S. called choppers that can hammer them down, chop them into small pieces, separate the plastic from the bare bright, and then you can send it to a mill a heck of a lot easier than you could, a normal data wire or a telephone wire. So that's going to kind of indicate what's going to happen from there. So she's coming back, and I'll answer those other questions. I can't see both sides of the screen. Go ahead, Vic.
One question from Byron. He asks, what is a good price on large Ford catalytic converters?
Foreign or
Ford?
Ford. So large Ford cats, it really depends, because there are some cats that come off of Econoline vans that are really big, that are really valuable, and there are other cats that are about this big that are also equally as valuable. So we've seen cat prices anywhere from $15, popular guy, anywhere from $15 per cat up to $115 per cat for large domestic cats, and that's where some of those Fords will get grouped in. Another question?
We have a quick question from Shannon. What is a good way to get rid of several starters and alternators?
Starters, and thank you for the question, Shannon. Starters and alternators are copper-bearing materials, very similar to electric motors. So you can sell those to your local yards. They should be a little better pricing than a normal, smaller electric motor, maybe by 3 or 4 cents extra on top of that. If you only have 1 or 2, don't expect to get special pricing. If you have a larger amount of them, you may, see a 3 or 4 cent uptick on those items. A couple of other things that we've watched. The steel market, relatively unchanged, but like we started off with, unchanged over the last week means that we're still coming off of bad news from last week's report, which means we're still waiting to see what's going to happen. We've seen those light iron prices drop on average $20 per ton over the last 2 weeks across the U.S. So the shreddable material, the light iron material, big drop. The heavier grades had a $10 drop about 2.5–3 weeks ago. So nothing too crazy, but the markets are still in a relatively strong position. Now, going forward for the rest of the summer, we still see a very large overseas demand. We've seen countries like Turkey, who have been one of the larger importers of steel over the last 10–15 years. They've scaled back a little bit. People are trying to see what's going to be happening. We had all the news last week with Iran. We have the ongoing news with North Korea. We have different market news on what's going on in the stock market. We saw the stock market have an 8-day positive swing, then it was broken. News breaks here, news breaks there. We still have a lot of question marks. This has been one of the more roller coastery rides over the last few months that we've seen in not only in scrap but in the overall financial markets, and we've really just been paying attention day by day because things can happen and change so quickly. We saw gold prices drop below $1,300 an ounce, and one thing that I want to talk about is not something that people will probably use too much, or recycle too much. It's cardboard. So cardboard is an item that always had a positive outflow the last few years. Last summer, prices had reached about $150 per ton for cardboard, which is crazy, very similar to a light iron. But with the Chinese instituting so many restrictions on their imports, one of the large ones is on cardboard, because they were saying that many of the people that were sending material to them were sending them dirty material. Example, a pizza box that may have cheese on it or food debris that's baled in with the cardboard. They don't want that. They just want clean OCC corrugated cardboard, so they can take it and make it into new cardboard, break down the fibers and go from there. And they put a large stop on that, where we've seen over the last 6 to 12 months, many counties and states that were getting returns on their cardboard are now having to pay to get rid of the cardboard through the recycling agencies. So a lot of the people that, you, myself, we recycle our cardboard, whether it's our boxes that we use for scrapping, or, you get something in the mail and you're folding it up, which would help your local taxes stay down, because now your local government's going to be getting a return on the cardboard that they're picking up, or the trash companies that they have, worked through. Now they're paying to get rid of this material, because you, me as a taxpayer, are paying to get rid of this material from whether it's your town that you work in, your town that you live in. So it's been a real role reversal the last few months that we've seen in the cardboard market specifically. Overall, I still am very optimistic going into the summer of 2018. I think these markets are at a very strong level, and even though we've seen a large restriction on material that could get exported overseas, and that goes for brass, number 1 wire, number 1 tubing, number 2 tubing as well, with the Chinese stopping a lot of these things, we've seen prices drop 3 or 4%, where the market has been relatively unchanged over the last week or two, and that's directly because people don't know what's going to be going on, so you have to widen the margins, the spreads that you're going to be trying to make as a scrap yard or a larger exporter, because you don't know what's going to happen from there. So we're really in a wait and see mode right now, and we don't have a lot of solid answers, but we're continuing to research, continuing to read about things, and hopefully the next few weeks, few months, we'll be able to give you more information. Guys, this is Tom from the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, May 16th, 2018. We hope everyone is staying busy, staying scrappy. Make sure you join our Facebook page, where we have lots of scrappers talking and answering each other's questions about different types of ways to make scrap, sell scrap, process scrap, find scrap. It's been a really great tool. We've watched over 800 members join the last 3-4 weeks since we opened it up. You have to request to join it. We don't want people in there that are going to be soliciting services. We want this to be for people who want to talk about scrap. That's what we're doing. We're making sure to really monitor the whole situation. Any other questions? Comment below. But until next week, I'll scrap you later.